The story begins in a land full of hope, but slowly drowning in control. In the 1700s, America was not a free country. It was a group of 13 colonies ruled by the powerful British Empire. At first, life seemed peaceful. People built homes, raised families, and dreamed of a better future. But far away, across the ocean in Britain, decisions were being made that would change everything. After a long and expensive war known as the 7 Years' War, Britain was deep in debt. To recover, the British government turned its eyes toward the American colonies. They believed the colonists should help pay for the war, so they began imposing taxes. At first, it was the Stamp Act. Then came the Townshend Acts. Paper, tea, glass, everyday items became more expensive. But the real problem was not just money, it was something deeper. The colonists had no voice. They were being taxed, but had no representation in the British Parliament. This gave birth to a powerful idea that would echo through history: no taxation without representation. Anger began to grow. In streets and homes, people whispered about freedom. They questioned authority. They began to resist. Then came a moment that changed everything. In 1770, in the cold streets of Boston, tensions exploded. British soldiers stood face to face with angry colonists. Words turned into shouts, shouts turned into chaos, and suddenly, gunshots rang out. 5 colonists lay dead. This event became known as the Boston Massacre. To the colonists, it was not just an accident, it was a symbol of British cruelty. But the storm was just beginning. 3 years later, in 1773, another spark lit the fire. The British passed the Tea Act, giving them control over tea sales in the colonies. The colonists saw it as another attempt to control them. So, one night, something bold happened. A group of men, disguised as Native Americans, quietly boarded British ships in Boston Harbor. They carried no weapons, only determination. One by one, they threw chests of tea into the dark water. 342 chests, gone. This act became famous as the Boston Tea Party. It was not just a protest, it was a message: we will not be controlled. Britain was furious. In response, they passed harsh laws known as the Intolerable Acts. Boston Harbor was closed. Soldiers filled the streets. The message from Britain was clear: obey or suffer. But instead of fear, something else grew: unity. For the first time, the colonies began to come together. Leaders gathered in meetings discussing their future. Among them were names that would become legends: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin. They were no longer just colonists, they were becoming revolutionaries. Then, in April 1775, the first shots of war were fired. In the quiet towns of Lexington and Concord, British troops marched to seize colonial weapons. But the colonists were ready. Farmers, blacksmiths, ordinary men stood their ground. When the smoke cleared, something had changed forever. The American Revolution had begun. At first, the colonists were not a strong army. They lacked training, weapons, and experience, but they had something powerful: belief. George Washington was chosen to lead them. He was not perfect, but he had courage, patience, and a vision of freedom. The early battles were difficult. The British army was strong, disciplined, and well-equipped. The colonists struggled. They faced defeat after defeat. Many soldiers were cold, hungry, and tired. There were moments when it seemed like all hope was lost. But then came a turning point. In 1776, something extraordinary happened. A document was written that would change the world: the Declaration of Independence. Written mainly by Thomas Jefferson, it was more than words on paper. It was a bold statement to the world. It declared that all men are created equal, that they have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And most importantly, it declared that America was no longer under British rule. It was a dangerous move. By signing it, these men were risking their lives. If they failed, they would be considered traitors. But they signed it anyway, because freedom was worth the risk. The war continued. Winters were harsh. At Valley Forge, soldiers suffered terribly. They had little food, little clothing, and little hope. But Washington stayed with them. He did not leave. He shared their pain. And slowly, they became stronger. Then came another major turning point. In 1777, the Battle of Saratoga. The American forces achieved a surprising victory against the British. This victory was important not just for morale, but for something bigger. It caught the attention of France. France, a powerful nation and enemy of Britain, decided to support the Americans. They provided soldiers, weapons, and ships. This changed the balance of the war. Now, the colonists were not alone. With French support, the Americans gained strength. The war slowly turned in their favor. Finally, in 1781, the last major battle took place, Yorktown. British General Cornwallis found himself trapped. American and French forces surrounded him by land and sea. There was no escape. After weeks of pressure, Cornwallis surrendered. It was over. The war that began with anger and hope ended with victory. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed. Britain officially recognized the United States as an independent nation. America was free. But this story is not just about war. It is about courage. It is about ordinary people who stood up against a powerful empire. It is about the belief that freedom is not given, it is fought for. The American Revolution changed the world. It inspired other nations to seek independence. It proved that even a small group of people, united by a powerful idea, can change history.
Today, when we look back, we do not just see battles and dates. We see a journey from control to freedom, from fear to courage, from colonies to a nation. And it all began with a simple idea, that people have the right to choose their own destiny. This is the story of the American Revolution, a story of struggle, sacrifice, and the birth of a nation.